Well, welcome to today's uplifting conversation, and I have the lovely Jesse An Nichols George with me here today, who is going to be our regular guest on the show, who is going to talk to us about the codes, the interpretation of the codes, so that we can support our ability to navigate our life. And so you're going to be talking about February, the month coming ahead, and we've been having a bit of a chat, and we've talked about oils. So we're going to be talking essential oils, and we're going to be talking about what to expect for the month of February. So I always think it's great if we are forewarned about what is coming up. Well, then, if we know something's going to be tricky, it's like that Girl Guide thing, isn't it? Or is it Murphy's Law as well? Be prepared. And over the last few years, I know that I've heard people say, expect the best, but be prepared for the worst, or for what is possible. So I love having, these tools which can support us in our journey. So welcome, Anne. I'll just call you Anne. I always go to which name. So welcome, Anne. And how are you? You've been moving and settling into a new place?
I have been. I'm doing good. I'm in this space for winter and excited about that. It's always nice to land for a little bit and to just kind of have a place I can be still for a while, for a few months. Of course, it's always a busy, intensive time because it's my writing time is winter. So that's always great. And I'm looking forward, actually, in the next week or 2 weeks, I'll be starting on the 2024 book. So that's great news. And for those that aren't sure what we're talking about here, this is the book that I put out every year, The Code Journey. This is the one for 2023. And it's a daily guide for life on Earth. And it has all kinds of great sections. It's a pretty thick book. For those that aren't sure, this is like a 700-page book. So it's but don't be intimidated by that size of it, because it's got a lot of incredible information. It's very easy reading. And I made it that way because as prolific of a writer as I am, I'm not a huge reader. Like, it takes me, I'm a very slow reader. So, given that, I know what it feels like. I wanted to make it as easy for people to get through the information as possible. So that's what I've tried to do in here. And it kind of breaks down, for those that are wondering, what is this about? It breaks down and it gives insights about the year. It's all original work that I work with. I basically work with various things like numbers and letters, and I have a gift for understanding what those are about, and those tell me about energy currents, much in the way a numerologist would do it, but I don't use it in any traditional sense. Like, I don't work the exact same way as a numerologist would. So it blends actually about 50 different modalities in this work, none of which are used in the traditional way. So for me, I can use those as a reference point, and that helps me to focus in and really see what the currents are that are going on. And that's where I have a gift for understanding what those currents are. So I kind of translate those into my own aspect of divine light, God language, whatever you want to call it, light language. And I bring it back out to put into this world, really, in a way that people can grab onto it in their everyday life. So it's very easy to work with. It's very easy to go in. A lot of people find this very inspiring, because it's like, great, you've told me exactly what is happening without telling me step by step that this is how I have to do it.
Well, you've got to give people that freedom to do their journey themselves in their own way, don't you, really? I had a book, the book that I've had of yours, and we used to just sit in the kitchen. So it was when you say it's a big, thick book, but it's not one you have to sit down and read all in one go. So that's the beauty of it. It's more like a reference book, really, isn't it?
It definitely is. I tend to refer to it as a spiritual almanac because it's like picking up Farmer's Almanac for the life currents, for energetic currents is basically what it is. And so that's where I find it's useful. And I feel like people, they know how to implement things, or a lot of times know the steps they need to take if they understand what they're dealing with. So this really helps people to hone into that understanding. And the book is broken down so that you've got oversights for the year, and then it breaks down by the months. And then, so that gives you insights for each month. And even within the months, it's kind of broken down with a body, mind, spirit component. And then within that, within the month section, it's got not only the month energy and insights, but it's got insights on the lunar cycles, like the new moon and the full moon. It's got insights on extra portals that are going on. So meteorite showers that are going on, our solstices, our equinoxes, the natural seasons and turnings of the year. And angel influences are in there, and then each day of the year. So I find that usually, you're going to have a little more reading at the beginning of the month. But then after that, you're only reading like maybe a page a day. So here again, very easy reading. And even on that page, it's not like it's full big paragraphs. There's questions within there to kind of get you thinking about things, to kind of get your mind opening up, to just to hopefully trigger some good connections for you in the work.
Lovely. And we've got some confirmation here. Jackie Tradewell. I love working with the code journey. 2023 is my 5th year. It will meet you where you are at. It's so transforming. So that's fantastic. And hello to Jean, who's tuning into our show today, on the live show. So thanks for saying hello and welcome. So what do we have in store for February? Where do we begin?
Oh, and I see Jean was putting in there. She puts tabs in her book so she can reference back, which is a
Yes.
great idea to do with this book, because you usually do have different sections and multiple places in the book that are active at one time. As we go into February, we've got a lot of different things happening. We have a lot of energy that can be kind of turbulent for people, in all honesty. That can leave people feeling kind of confused and uncertain about things, not sure where to turn, because when we get into some of these confusing aspects, what happens is we're not sure, who's standing on what side anymore. We're not sure if we're seeing things clearly. It all becomes a big mix up, like, man, I thought I could trust that person, but now I don't know if I could trust that person. And I don't know if they're just playing an act like I can't trust them, or if it's real. And so there's some key components that we really are going to be focusing in on in February. And I encourage people, if you want to really get the full depth of February, what's going on in February, follow me on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can get on my mailing list. You can sign up for that through my website at compassioncodes.com. And, buy the book, of course. But if you're not sure and you want to just kind of get an idea what the information is, I do post like monthly information and things on there. So it'll give it more complete than what we can cover in this show. But when we start to have some of these aspects come up, what we really are going to want to focus on in February is we're going to want to focus on peace. We want to focus on, how do I ease my fears up? How do I release those and call those out? And in this show, I think what we'll do is maybe give an overhead right now of some of these key concepts, and then we can look, like, from that code perspective, what these concepts are about. And this will kind of give people a way to understand some of the mindset in here, and how your oils maybe can help them or connect with them in this. understanding and clarity is going to be a big thing. A lot of people are going to be seeking that out. They're going to be, again, how do I know what is right, what is not right? I'm feeling very confused. So they're going to be seeking that clarity. And I think on one hand, this can be a time to get greater depth and understanding of things. On another hand, we may almost have to let go of forcing the understanding. And I think that's important. And that ties in with one of the other points that we have this month that we want to focus on is objectivity. And that means that you really want to be able to sit and watch. Don't jump to a conclusion right at the first time you see it. They say the best reporters wait 2 or 3 days and they don't jump on the story the second it breaks, because there's always going to be more things that unfold or
Always.
things you don't see up front. And then you
Yes.
might regret, what you did in that reactive or impulsive or very quick mode there. So that objectivity, um, looking at things not just from the way you want to see them, but really for what they are. And I think that's going to be very important in this month. And then possibly even, having to look at acceptance of what you're seeing. And I think this is important because so many times we'll put maybe one person on a pedestal and somebody else, we want to just tear them down because of the way we're viewing things. But we need to really take this objective point of view, take a step back in a sense, so that we can really see it. And we need to be willing to say, if I'm going to demand this on one person, I need to be able to demand it on another person. And if I'm not willing to do that, I then need to do the deeper probing to say, what do I need to accept in this situation? Or, how does this shift? Because I've lost my objectivity if I'm not willing to apply the rules to both sides.
That's a good trap to get into, isn't it? That sort of, somebody who you think is on the ball or you have a lot of respect for, you can very easily let a few things slip. But somebody else that you might have different opinions on and feel very wary, well, you don't let them get away with anything in our minds, sort of thing. So good, very good point. I like that.
Well, and I think if we are standing in divine spirit, if we're standing in the God alignment, if we're, holding into the soul self doesn't have to make a judgment. It doesn't have um, to play these sides. It doesn't look at it so much in these black and white terms of, because this person sits here or is part of this group, that they're always right and the person who isn't part of that group is always wrong. We have to be able to move through that. And that brings me to one of the next key points for February, which is discernment. And discernment is going to be so valuable. I look at, okay, here's discernment as our big tool. Objectivity, put that hand in hand with discernment. It's such a powerful tool for us to have, because here again, especially when you've got a lot of confusion going on, not having that discernment can send you down some paths that aren't too great. So we have to be able to look through that surface image of things.
Yes, I can totally relate to that, and particularly in the last couple of years, and a lot of what you've been saying, how you might think something and then there's another layer, or even what we've been put through in the last a couple of years. Sometimes there was a period where I would wake up and go, is this really happening? Is this what, are we really have every plane in the world, the standstill we came to as a whole global community, it's almost surreal. Well, it is surreal, but it's actually very real. So it really has played with many of our heads and made us reevaluate what we think, what we do, where we're going. And, sometimes I look and think, am I really, because I might have a different opinion to, perhaps many people about what's going on. And then you question yourself, and which is a good thing, because we really can't just accept the first thing that comes to our mind, and we've got to do our research and dig a bit deeper, and, as you say, have an open mind. And things are everything's shifting. It's like shifting sands at the moment, and it's rolling through very quickly, isn't it?
Well, and February is going to be even more so. You talk about these kind of psychological operations and things like that, and just the mind games. A lot of
Yes.
mind games, and that's why that discernment becomes so very, very important in what we're doing. And with that, one of the things that we need to keep active during February as well is going to be creativity.
Oh,
So,
I love that.
um, yeah, and creativity is one of the great ways that um, we stay in divine alignment. And this is, this ties in with the old Native American traditions. When was the last time you sang? When was the last time you danced? When was the last time you laughed? When was, because these are all tied in. So much of the arts are tied into creativity. And so we want to really think about that. And a lot of times we can get ourselves out of some pretty strong ruts or tough spaces if we do something creative. And
It fills our cup, doesn't it? It does for me. I love painting and drawing and or writing or gardening or walking the beach, anything like that. So it is, creativity. It kind of takes you back to a place of balance, really, and connection to self, and also a good way to process what's going on.
well, absolutely. And I think so many times, especially when you have these kind of mind games and things that are going on, a lot of confusion that's going on, it just helps to really pull us out of the mind and being just so heavy in the head. And, one of the things I was coming across recently over the last few weeks, just because I'm always looking at what's going on with myself, what my body is telling me, and the message and the information. And so I'm always researching things all the time, looking for new options or new suggestions that are popping up on things. And I found out that this a lot of spiritual people might actually resonate with this, because I've heard so many spiritual people talking about their fatigue levels.
Ah,
And of
yeah.
course, we know fatigue levels can tie into potassium drops and other drops of nutrients in the system and various things, thyroid and a variety of different things. But one of the things I found interesting over the last couple of weeks was that the more we are doing mental activity,
Yes.
and I include the spiritual in this as well, because like a lot of healers, they don't realize actually there's a lot, even though it's a very flowing energy, the energy work is also using a lot of the mind, even though
Mm-hmm.
you're not totally in the mind. And so it naturally leaves the body more fatigued than if you're out doing, for example, physical exercise or physical activity. And so it actually depletes the nutrients a little bit more in the body. And I thought, well, that's just really interesting. So knowing some of these things, when you start to look at the code patterns and you go, oh, okay, let's tap into creativity, and I need to make sure I'm on top of that. Because that's going to, again, that leads us into another point that's very active in February, which is personal strength. And, so that little bit of creativity can be the difference in me having the personal strength that I need to get through things, not just physically, but just personally. Personally, can I really tune into my self-sufficiency? Can I really bring my own energy level up, or how much am I depending on that latte, I don't
Oh,
know, white mocha or whatever to do the trick for me?
yeah. So I actually don't drink coffee. So that's my kids laugh at me, Mom, because years ago I had half a cup and I just went, actually, I don't actually like it. So I just didn't bother learning to drink coffee. And the kids were laughing at me the other day, and I said, imagine how much money I've saved by not having to. top myself up with latte. But I do actually, in February, I've got this beautiful healthy drink called Ningxia Red, and that is what we're focusing on, a total recharge. So I am doing what I can to look after myself. So I'll have one of those very quickly before I'll have a coffee, that's for sure. So,
Well,
but
that's
look,
I can say there's been times that I've done a lot of it on the
well,
road,
yeah,
but I have no problem leaving it aside either. I prefer the natural options, the
yeah,
going to something like chicory root or
yep,
um, the green teas or things like that that really don't hold the same caffeine levels. And I really don't want my body dependent on those things. So again, our personal strength is always going to be within. It's not going to be reliant on these other external things so much
yes,
in there. Now we say, well, then what does that mean? Why then use an essential oil? Why then use some of these other products? So there's a little bit of difference between using something that's very natural and that simply serves as a reminder versus say something like a cup of coffee or something like that that we're using to kickstart for us. Um, One thing works with us, the other thing actually comes in and we're actually turning our power over to it. It actually becomes more of an addiction.
yes. So, and that's to do, and that supports your energy. Otherwise, like some things will support your energy, or some things will actually deplete your energy, or raise your vibration, or lower your vibration. So, it's always good if we're aware of what is going to raise our vibration in the right way. Jean said, I feel oils work with our bodies to help heal and rest. Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely. And that's what I loved about, finding, particularly because I found Young Living, because they are so, uh, keen to make sure that the vibrations are high and very pure. So that's when I found Young Living, they spoke to me because I could really tune into that, the sense of their beautiful vibrations.
Yeah, it's I find that with the different oils, there's just so many ways that they can work to shift our body, our mind, our spirit, our health. There's so many things. I mean, I know it's not specifically an essential oil I'm working with at the moment because I can't stock up on too much, being that I travel half of the year. But it's like even just recently, I was having some strange things happen in my dream state, and I'm like, yeah, there's something going on here. So I have this jar of really pure frankincense,
No, nice.
and I don't even have to burn it. I just open it up and I let it be there as a sort of just clearing the vibrations around me while I'm sleeping. So, it's like same thing like when you put up a circle of white light around you before going to sleep at night. And it just kind of keeps anything that's there trying to toy, away to a certain extent. It just kind of keeps the vibrations, as we say, um,
Yes,
raised to a point that it doesn't make a very hospitable environment for things that are trying to interfere with our mindset.
absolutely. So what else have we got going on in February? Where
So
to?
I think what we could do is we could take a look at. Let's take the first point of the chapter of um, peace, particularly easing fears this month.
Yes,
And when we look at the vibrations on that, when we look at the um, code vibrations to that, peace resonates in a very intuitive mindset. It is naturally a vibrational energy that will connect us with the divine. But we have to be very careful in that because when we have that peace, our mind is naturally open and receptive to receiving the messages, the divine inspirations, having that come through, but our logical mind doesn't work so well.
If we're too cool, calm, and collected. So,
Well, and what happens is our mind is busy drifting off because it's connected more with the soul self when it's feeling at peace than it is paying attention to what's happening around us. And the key is to always kind of find a balance. And a lot of times why our peace is disturbed is because we're holding on to some kind of fear or fears in a collective sense. And I find more and more people feeling those fears coming up in them today. And with the fears, to be able to ease them, in codes, it shows that we need to be able to build a relationship. And in this case, because we're talking about creating peace, that relationship is going to be more etheric than it's going to be physical. Now, that doesn't mean that we wouldn't have like a physical person that might also help in that situation, but it means that our relationship with divinity, our relationship with the soul self, that is what's going to ease the fears. Because once we know that aspect of life and we understand, so-called God's will, if we understand that, then we know that the fears are a lie. We know that the fears are not telling us the truth. The fears are a program, and they are a program that says you have to be connected to people, you have to have this, you have to have that, and you have to operate in this specific way. But when we release that, and the fear is really, fear in a singular sense, is really about blocking us from making breakthroughs. So usually it comes up and tries to create these blocks because we're on the edge of a breakthrough.
yes.
In there. So in this alignment, we're looking for a lot of divine alignment. We're looking to be able to call out the lies which are associated with the fears, and then to tune into divine alignment.
I love that explanation. Years ago, when I was going through my spiritual awakening and I was learning about all these things, one saying sticks in my mind, and it was fear knocked on the door, but faith answered. And just having that in my mind was very helpful. You've kind of summed it up nicely what that's all about. Just have some faith, but it doesn't just happen. We've got to work at that. We've got to learn how to have that, and I guess that discernment comes in too, isn't it? That discernment about, don't get caught up in this, because it's not necessarily the way things are going to pan out, and you've just got to have some faith that everything's going to be all right.
Well, and so many times we think that something is our thoughts, our mind, but a lot of the fears are not. A lot of the fears are programming that's being triggered. It's a reaction or something that has been infiltrated into our mind that says you need to believe this way. I use my own examples of when I was younger and my body went through several rapes during that time, and there had to be a choice made. Was I going to follow the programming and be a victim, or was I going to stand up and say, no, I can still have healthy relationships. I don't have to follow this pattern. I can lead a beautiful life if I want to do that. And the choice, making that choice. And so, when we look at this, we really want to tune it in and call these lies out with it. And here again, this is about building that relationship with self, tuning in and going, nope, because if it's of divine energy, it's going to have my best interest at mind. God and divine presence, they don't work by instilling fears in us. God might want us to be aware of things, pay attention to things, but not to be afraid. And that even when things get scary, a lot of times what brings us turbulence is our fear and not the actual situation that we're going through.
Absolutely. And I think we did have, I know, well, what was it, early 2020, was it? I think a lot of us, when things did start, closing in on us, and there was sort of choices I've made that not everyone else has made, and it looked like we weren't going to have a choice. And our mind can take us, in so many directions that really you've got to kind of stop that, and well, maybe living in parallel worlds. You don't have to be in that world. You can navigate life in other ways if need be, and having trust in that. And I'm getting a sense of that more as time goes on.
Well, absolutely. And Kay, I had you send me some of the essential oils that you would suggest for this
Yeah.
energy vibration, for dealing with this. And you sent me over tangerine, orange, lang lang, patchouli, and blue tansy.
So yes, so that was in a blend, that all of those singly, but there's a blend, and it's actually called Peace and Calming, and all those blends, all those oils are in Peace and Calming.
Okay.
So so if you didn't have Peace and Calming, you could grab any of those oils or make your own blends with those oils. But what I love about Young Living is Gary came up with all these amazing combinations that, like with a name like Peace and Calming. Well, we know what that's about. So we do our Peace and Calming, a beautiful oil to diffuse, say before you go to bed at night, to bring yourself into a state of peace and calm, or even just wearing it, applying it to your wrists like this. Oh, this is an empty. Hasn't got a thing on it. Demonstration one, but you can just put a drop on your wrists and activate it and smell it. And I always like to move it through your aura. Beautiful.
So if people are using that as a blend, I want to help them understand how this is connecting to the currents that are going on for them, because each of these oils have their own way of connecting to the currents. And then as the collective blend of them brings up, of course, another vibration that is involved in there. And so individually, like tangerine has a lot to do with completion. Tangerine has a lot to do with wholeness and being able to rest into the completion of something. So it's going to connect somebody more with the peace that comes from completion when they're completing something. But also when we start to look at it, at how it interacts with peace or easing fears, and with peace, it actually interacts in a way that is about freedom. So that ending that it represents can be leading to freedom. And sometimes that can be hard to see because it oftentimes may be coming at a time that somebody maybe is feeling kind of worn down, cast out. Their health might be running low at that period. And so that interaction helps them to get back to the simple things, the basic concepts, the basic self-care that needs to be done in that process. And when it's interacting in a way to ease fears and it's trying to work on the fears, then it is about creating one's own success, which all plays into the other vibrations, because oftentimes when we are cast out from something, it's moving us to move more into the soul's path on this aspect. So it's very interesting to see the dynamics, play. And you have, for example, orange, which has a very similar scent to tangerine, but a little bit different, right? And yet, the orange is all about showing us the aspects of using our power wisely. So, if we are to obtain peace, during this time and somebody wants to work individually with the orange oil, then they're going to have to make sure they're using their power wisely. And that wise use of power is what's going to provide the peace.
I love that.
So it's going to open that door up, but then when it interacts with the energy current of peace, orange then unfolds personal power. And it then presents you with the situation of, are you going to create more self-sufficiency, or are you going to turn your power over to others? Are you going to stand in observation and watch what happens and let things get resolved? Or are you going to be in the battle? Are you going to allow yourself to be pulled to one side or another? And this is so important, because that orange oil then, when we're talking about bringing forward peace, helps us to not get sucked into those battles, and realizing we can just sit back and listen. We can look at things from a little more esoteric point of view in them. And with the fears, one of the things that it does is it opens up the ability to be calm and to be still, and to realize that sometimes we need the stillness and not the movement. And sometimes we have to be still in order to see what the truth actually is in a situation, so that then we can find our peace. We can find out who is and who isn't operating in integrity. So we have these different layers in the Lang Lang oil. That's really good with bringing peace where there's turbulent situations. So the Lang Lang is all about being able to stand strong, be the kind of proverbial eye of the storm. When that interacts with the peace energy, it helps us to come into taking responsible action, being able to take hold and face the big stuff, the tough stuff in life. And that is what's unfolding. It's going to help us to see how our spirit is able to overcome any challenge or situation that's presented to it. And when it interacts with the fears, here again, it's going to help us find our power. It's going to help us to find the strength to work with others where we need to work with them, to kind of bring people together, to create an outcome that's necessary. It's like we all have these different skills, but until we're willing to bring those skills together, it's going to be hard to create the results that we need to create as a team. So valuing both the individual and the individual as part of a team in there. So it's very interesting. You can see how these different oils play in these different dynamics. And when you bring them together, well, and patchouli gives us peace when we're in major transformation. So patchouli is a good one when you're going through some of the really big stuff, when you're going through big transitions, big shifts, major endings that have to happen, when you're dealing with death energy, when you need to close something out and rebirth into something else. Patchouli is really good for that intense, heavy stuff that we have to deal with in life. And when we use that to interact with peace, what it's going to do is it's going to bring the truth to the surface so that we can reflect on it. And then from there, we start to find our peace because we understand what is and is not in alignment. When we look at how it interacts on dealing with fears, what it does is it brings us internal. It says, come internal, stop listening to all that excess chatter outside of ourselves, come into the infinite self and center there. So it brings in the centering component, which is really cool.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful oil to make you feel nourished and supported, and it's that's what I think of patchouli. It's an enriching oil.
Well, here again, because that takes you into the depths of yourself, is what it does. And when we go to the depths of ourself, we're connecting with the soul self in that process.
And support, and because for a lot of us, going to the depths of ourselves is not something that we have, nurtured. It's, I always, I look back at my childhood, and yes, my parents told me what to do and where to go. And as if that's what's happened as a young child, you just expect someone else is going to solve all those problems for you. Or someone said to me once, "What are you passionate about?" And I had to stop and think, and and feel into it, and it had me wondering, what am I really passionate about? And anyway, it's something good to ponder upon if you feel that you kind of, don't really know what you want to do or where you want to go, or who you are. Even digging into the depths of yourself is so important.
Well, it is, and I think sometimes people avoid themselves. They get out there in the chatter and they don't want to look at that part. But once you're willing to look at it, it's incredible in there. It's really amazing to start to pull that forward,
Yeah,
to really make that soul self connection in there, is so beautiful. And then we have the blue tansy you talked about in there.
yeah,
And the blue tansy is very interesting because on its own, it is naturally an essential oil that is rooted in unconditional love. So it really helps us to remember the power of unconditional love, true love, that is there for us. It helps us to see that. And when that's interacting with peace, it actually gives us the energy to break free of what is restricting us, to be able to embrace the more adventurous side of ourselves, to let go of the addictions. And a lot of times it's the addictions, it's those patterns of whether you're talking food or drugs or you're talking coffee or anything else, that when you let go of those addictions, you find more peace that's going to enter in for you. So it kind of gives you the strength to let go of those and to say, nope, I'm going to stand. I'm going to stand in that, again, God energy, that divine alignment in there. And I'm going to let that move into things. And Blue Tansy, working on the easing of fears, what we have there is that it helps to bring things into completion. It helps to connect us with abundance energy within ourselves. And it helps us to start to see what is actually coming from our actions. So it helps us to make those connections of, look, how blessed I am. No matter what I have materially, I am incredibly blessed. And to tune into that true abundance. So it's incredible. And then, if we take all of that and we do it as the blend, as a combination, like you mentioned um, uh, here just a little while ago, then what we have is the combination of them is all about bringing the truth to the surface. It's all about rising up so that we can see what's really happening. Because a lot of times, our peace feels disturbed because we don't understand what's really happening. We're not able to quite see what is or is not the truth in a situation. And so once we can start to see the truth, we go, okay, now I know where I need to align. I know where I need to be standing. And granted, on one hand, we always know we need to stand in the integrity. We always need to stand in the truth. But on the other hand, sometimes we can't see where the truth lies. We can't always
absolutely.
see when we're being pulled into something because that's just somebody's manipulating us to get something that they want in things. And so, as that then connects in with the peace energy, it actually brings balance. It actually harmonizes things. It brings balance to the situation. And it also opens up some of the creative energy. It gives us the strength to find our voice where we need to speak up in situations. And then with the connecting with the easing of fears current, uh, we again have that energy surfacing of being able to overcome what is pulling us out of spirit, overcome the addictions in there. So it's so interesting to me when I look at things from a code perspective and see how these layers are interwoven into something. And here again, deciding, you have these listeners out there and these people that are working with these oils, and it's very interesting, depending on what they're going through, that there can be these variations of what they're getting, or that one oil might actually tune in a little bit better for their situation than another one, even though they both technically work on the same thing.
Yes. Well, and energy, we're all different energetically, and energy changes, throughout the day, doesn't it? Like, in the morning, I might like some peace and calming, but in the afternoon, I might like some energy oil to give me, or something that, like some peppermint, that will, help me feel upbeat and, come alive and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing, and that's the beauty about when you're working with essential oils, is that they're very easy to work with in so many ways. And you can make those shifts. You can make those shifts very easily. Like, okay, this is what I need in the morning. This is where I'm at in the afternoon. This is where I'm at in the evening. And I think that that's such a great aspect of working with them in there.
Absolutely. It's definitely supported me to live and be more mindful of an intentional way of living as well, which is something, when we use the oils, if you, well, with peace and calming, you can use it and just say, I feel really peaceful and calm. And when your mindset is, and your mind is, got that intention, and you're using the oil, you're actually expanding the energy of the ability of the oil to energetically help you shift as well.
Well, and we talked about that too when I was on last month, Kay, about when you go in and you look at the book, instead of just fumbling your way through everything, you can go in and say, great, these are the currents I'm dealing with right now. Okay, I'm understanding these deeper layers. Now
Yes.
let's pull the essential oil that's going to benefit that situation. So, as you mentioned, you're working from a much stronger space of consciousness or awareness in things. And so you're really tapping much more into that soul self. You're really paying attention, where am I at today? Where am I at in this situation? Where am I maybe fumbling around a little bit? Or, okay, I can see that I'm going down this path and I need to come back in here. And the way I look at it with essential oils, again, it's not I don't believe that we ever have to be totally reliant on something outside of ourselves, because push comes to shove, it's the internal aspects that are going to see us through something. However, that being said, it doesn't hurt to have some tools available to you, like oils, uh, along the way. And oils, in many ways, are much like giving yourself good nutrition.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yes.
and that changes, right? One day your body might be depleted of potassium. Another day the thyroid might be dropping off a little bit. And you have to adjust and eat different things, right? To bring your body into the balance, into what it needs for that particular day. Well, it's no different when you're working with energy currents and you're working with essential oils. And that's where it's helpful to do that, however you're using them, even if it's just getting that little bit up under your nose,
Oh, yeah.
to breathe it in, and then going, okay, I realize that I'm not sitting in peace at the moment. I realize I'm sitting in fear. So I'm going to take my oil, I'm going to breathe it in, or however I'm going to use it. And I'm going to, or just set it, in the room. And sometimes I like candles too sometimes, when I'm doing that type of work, and just set it in there and just light that candle and go, okay, here's the fear. I'm going to acknowledge the fear, and this is a lie, and I'm going to call it out, and I'm going to let that release and let it burn away as I burn the candle, or and just sit there with that oil and energy infusing around, and do that focus and go, okay, I'm going to transition now from fear to peace. And in doing that sort of aspect, and you know, you could even look in the book and say, well, what are the key points to focus on for the particular day, too, and go back and draw and go, okay, I realize this is where I'm at, and then you can create your own meditation for that, and to just tune in and go, okay, let me remember what it feels like to feel the peace. Let me remember, um, you know, this focus, and let me redirect that focus, and let me consciously take and say, okay, I acknowledge these fears. I'm going to turn them over. I'm going to turn them over to divine presence to work with.
Beautiful. I love that.
And I
So
see Jean is in there in the chat, and she's saying, same with the book. Things change from day to day, and it helps me to realize I'm not going crazy. The energy's changed, and they do every single day. You know, we
so
have these variations. So even in the month, if we have these key concepts, you're going to unfold those layers when you're working with the book on a day-to-day basis.
yes. And Jean says, same here, been so long at 60, I don't know what I want. So I think that comment came through about, you know, being passionate, or what do we need? What do we want to do with ourselves? So I can relate to that, Jean. And Jackie says she loves the angel codes. So you've got some couple of good supportive people who absolutely adore your books and are good followers, which is wonderful to have that support.
Well, absolutely, and I've seen so much happen for the people that are working with the book. And I think what's exciting for them is because so many modalities say you can only work with this modality, and you can't allow it to interact with other things that you're doing. And the code journey is very open. It doesn't matter what somebody's working with. It doesn't matter how they shift and change in their path, which is one of the most beautiful things about it, is that you can be doing yoga one time and then go explore essential oils another time, and then you can go explore some other esoteric you know, concepts, and then you can go work with crystals or whatever else you're doing, and you can shift your modalities, and it will go with you. It will meet you to where you're at, and it will just open those doors, because it's not specific to one belief system or practice. It's really about you creating your own divine alignment, you tuning into walking with God, you tuning in to opening divine presence in your life.
Walking in divine alignment, and that is just so empowering. So what, you know, when the energy's then, once you're in that divine alignment, yes, you can still get bumped and nudged, but I know for me, I'll never go back to the bottom of the barrel that I experienced many years ago. And the good thing about the bottom of the barrel is, well, once you're there, you can't go any further down. But what you can do with your choices, and knowing the energies and whatever you want to pull in to get yourself out of that, you can raise yourself up and out of things, and nothing stays the same. The only constant is change, really. And we've got to learn how to go with the flow, which a lot of us find that can be a challenge, particularly if, like you talked about, being in fear, or some of the other words you talked about were discernment, and objectivity. So we've got to have acceptance and surrender to these things. And some of the oils that we've got listed here are ones called surrender. So it's about it says, urges you to put higher guidance for your highest good, surrender to the path in the unknown, and maintain alignment with your higher purpose. So when you've got things that come in to support you, the journey, the bumps aren't quite so hard, or maybe so long, is what I have found.
Well, and I think we can see things from different perspectives as well. So the more we're standing in that alignment, the more we're honoring divine presence. Instead of being in reactive spaces, you're in active spaces. You're being able to sit with something. You're being able to let go of the judgments around something. You're being able to accept something for what it is. And as you say, even with the best code alignments, it doesn't mean that you're going to have a challenge in your life. But the difference is the more we're coming into alignments, the more that we can deal with them and uh, open them up and to handle them from the soul self. And I think that's where we see the real shifts, because I mean, I've seen Jackie go through that, where she was when she started working with this work. And she'll admit she was in very reactive spaces, and she would throw tantrums. And I remember the first personal year report that I did for her, and boy, I don't think she spoke to me for like 3 days because she didn't like what was in the report. But she did take hold, and she did embrace it, and she just, really opened up. Yeah, she said totally, and she's laughing because she learned where her soul self was and where her human self was in this process. And she learned that sometimes she had to give that human self a time out. And now she's in a position where she stops, she looks at things, she calls out those fears, uses her discernment, and she sits back. And doesn't mean that she's perfect. I'm not perfect either, but um, she's handling things in a whole different perspective now.
It gives you a process to look at, or something that you can come up with your own process with to walk your journey. And I think the thing is, when we do go into that state that you're saying Jackie went into, oh my gosh, this is all too much for me and I don't really like what I'm hearing. Well, imagine Jackie if she stayed in that state rather than moving through it in the way she did in her individual way. And it's that thing of, once again, it's that fear of the unknown, or fear of what you don't want to know about, but really it's in your face, so you've got to know about it. So, and once you do that transformation and work with it, well, one, you get better at it, and two, you as time goes on, you get much more fluid and in harmony with yourself. And sometimes you can just bounce, you can kind of go, oh, you might recognize that you've gone into a state, and then you might go, oh no, actually I need to switch that, flick that switch. And I've got a friend who he terms, well, the old Gary used to do this, but the new Gary does this. So you come up with another way of communicating with yourself, and really guiding and supporting yourself to navigate these codes of our journey, which is what I love about your book, because it brings a lot of things together. Kate Curran, I'd love to know who invited me to this event. Hello, Kate, and welcome to our live show. I'm not quite sure who invited you, but I'm very pleased that you are here.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm glad she's here too, and that's great to see people coming in, and wherever they're coming from, we welcome them coming through. So.
So yes, please do share this around, and we'd probably need to be rounding this up too. So is there any other key points you'd like to include?
Yeah, I think that the thing with the code journey work that makes it so powerful is it's about foresight and working from that divine alignment space. And when we start to understand things, we can overcome any of the challenges with that. When we're willing to just open up a little bit and go, okay, here's what I'm dealing with, and then be proactive in going, okay, great, this is what I'm dealing with this month. I know how discernment is going to be needed for me versus maybe how you need it. I know what's going to bring me peace versus what brings you peace. And we each have our own things that do that for us. And I think once you do that, then you can start to open it up and you start to work in a very preventative way. I mean, you're not going to stop everything from coming through. But when you start to open up and again, you're willing to be objective about the situation. And a lot of times in the middle of challenges, I'll even ask, what is the soul connection here? What is God's path in this? What is um, the alignment to take here? What is the objective thing? What if I just look at the facts? um, and these sorts of things, it allows you to kind of prepare in a certain way for what's coming. I mean, you can't prepare for everything, but you have that heads up, so you're already, to a sense, ready to deal with it.
It's about Howard, really, isn't it? And I love Jackie saying the code journey 2023 is about divine alignment, and I just love that. I think, like, just imagine if everybody in the world was in divine alignment. That would be divinely amazing.
Well, it would be. I mean, we would have a very different world if everybody was working from the soul self. It would be pretty amazing. There'd just be so much stuff that wouldn't exist on one hand that distracts us from really being able to see the beauty of the life that's here. And I think that's one of the things we always want to keep in mind as the challenges come up, as things come up that interrupt our peace, that confuse us, that tear at our strength, that want to pull us out of being objective, want to pull us into these sides, want to pull us out of the creativity, that we can look at it and we can find that strength to center in. And I think that's very powerful, that we find ourselves in a place that we can deal with it. And it's actually not as hard as we make it a lot of times to find these other spaces to be in. And I often say, you're only one choice away, because you only have to choose which space you're going to be in. You can be upset and angry and all of that, or you can acknowledge your feelings and not be angry and self-destructive.
And using that anger, channeling that anger wisely is in a direction that it's going to open things up or help move things through, rather than closed doors or bang your head against a brick wall. It's about being proactive, really. And yeah. So
it's really about opening up and being able to maneuver through life. It's not about avoiding everything. It's about being able to maneuvering through what's happening.
And Jean, I love it. Guilty of rebellious energy. Well, I'm sure we could all, I could definitely nominate yes for that. Actually, one of my things, I've had an incident recently with anyway, I won't give too many details, but and I was talking to a friend of mine, and she said, well, and she was quoting me, she said, a good friend of mine told me just to put them in a bubble of love, and when friends might come, or even my children when they had issues with other friends at school, and I would just say, well, obviously there's something in their life that they're not happy about and they need some love. Put them in some bubbles of love, and the kids would come home and go, oh gosh, something happened today and that worked. Or even if that doesn't come to fruition, it's putting you in a state where you are going to be in that unconditional state of love, so that you're not spewing anger and getting terrible karma back as well. But it can shift the energy so easily once we do that little shift of our perspective. That can change lots of things, like that domino effect, really.
Oh, most definitely. And I think it changes the individual, and it also changes the interactions we have with other people, even those people that are challenging for us. So it truly is a powerful thing. And I see Jean is in there commenting that with the daily codes, it's amazing just how the right phrase pops off of the page and you have that aha moment, or light bulb moment.
I see a little glyph there. Yeah.
So,
Well, we're going to have to round this up.
yeah.
It feels like the hour's gone very quickly. So thank you, Anne, for coming on. And I certainly look forward to meeting up with you again for March and learning more about how the codes are going to be, what direction they're going to be heading us in. So the key words this week, this month are peace, understanding, objectivity, discernment, creativity, personal strength, and calm. So there's some things, if anyone wanted to write those down or become aware of some of the things that we need to be working on so that we can navigate our way through February with as much ease and grace as possible.
Well, and one of the oils I noticed when you sent me oils that work on these things is Lang Lang seemed to cover a lot of them.
Yes.
So that might be a good oil too for people to work on if they want to cover multiple points.
Absolutely. And Lang Lang is very balancing in the masculine and the feminine so that we are working, bringing the masculine and the feminine in the strength within us to help navigate our way through life. Oh, thank you, Jean. Just what her day needed. Discernment keeps popping up. Guess what? That's what I need to work with. I love it. So the blend that I recommended for discernment is surrender. And in that is lavender, lemon, northern lights, black spruce, Roman chamomile, angelica, mountain savory, and German chamomile. And it helps you to surrender to um, your highest good, urges you to put your highest good, important in the forefront of things, and to surrender to the faith in the unknown and to maintain alignment with your higher purpose. So now you can reach out and find Anne on her website, compassioncodes.com, or you can find Anne on Facebook, Jesse An Nichols George. You can find me on Facebook or YouTube. You have a YouTube channel too, don't you?
I do have a YouTube channel as well. So, and I put up monthly videos, and right now I also have some just daily insights out of the book, just kind of one sentence out of the day that I'm sharing out on the social media and the YouTube pages. So it's a great way to just kind of tune in and again see if you like some of the phrases that are coming up, and to explore the work a little bit, just to provide that inspiration out there for people.
That sounds fantastic. So you can also do a one-on-one session with Anne or a one-on-one session with me. We both have our own flavors about how we work. So I work energetically, I work with color, essential oils, affirmations, intentions, and I can help you to unpack those blocks and look at what's blocking you from stepping into your highest purpose, and what's blocking you from magnifying your purpose and shining the light from within that your soul really wants to do. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Those listening to the replay, reach out. We hope this is helpful. You will find me on Mint Radio. There's lots of different platforms that you will find me on, but reach out. And I have complimentary clarity calls as well. What would you like to tell people they can get from you, Anne?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things, but I'd say one of the key things that I do is twice a month, I run a study session for the Code Journey work. And whether people are following the work online, have the book physically, or getting personal year reports from me, any of that, the study sessions are free. And so they can always jump into those. They're recorded. So if somebody can't make them live, then they can listen to the recordings as well. And we have just a beautiful group of energy of people in there that are just loving, and it gives people a chance to come in and just ask some questions. share the connections that they're having between the work and what's coming up in the codes and what's going on in their lives. And we just kind of look at things by whatever's coming up in the moment. And then on the YouTube channel, I do monthly videos. So I usually take some sort of topic or concept and do a short video on that as well.
Fantastic. So there you are. You've got lots of places to access us. So from my heart to your hearts, and from Anne, thank you very much for being here. And I look forward to you tuning into next week's Uplifting Conversations, where I have the lovely Bridget, our astrologer, who is going to be joining me for the first week of the month, and she will be honing in on some astrology dates and what's happening there, which will be also in alignment with a lot of the work that Anne has been talking about and will be presenting on these shows as well. So thank you, everybody. Go and enjoy your week and grab yourself a code book or a bit of time to come and connect with us. Thank you, everyone.